Most people think Transformer colors are just costume design. They are not. Every color on a Cybertronian's body is doing work, telling you their faction, their class, their job, even how close they are to death. And one color in the franchise is not a color at all. 8 colors, 8 decoders, across G1, Bayverse, Transformers Prime, and Transformers 1. By the end of this, you will know what every color actually means, and the last one will change how you watch every Transformers death scene that came before it. Red. Red is the most photographed Autobot frame in pop culture history. Optimus Prime's chest, Optimus Prime's truck cab, Optimus Prime's everything, and it has not changed in 40 years. Optimus's canonical color scheme is primary red, secondary blue, tertiary silver gray. G1 cartoon, Bayverse, Transformers Prime, Transformers 1 in 2024. Across every continuity, the franchise has redesigned Optimus's face, his height, his voice, his weapons, his backstory, but never his palette. It holds because it was already locked before Hasbro got the character. Optimus's mold came from Takara's Diaclone Battle Convoy, released in Japan in 1983. The red, blue, and silver were Diaclone's choice. Hasbro inherited them. But here is the contradiction nobody talks about. Red is also the Decepticon eye color. Same wavelength, opposite meaning. Courage on Optimus, aggression on Megatron, and nobody on either side ever acknowledges they are wearing the same hue. Optimus's red has never changed because the franchise has never figured out a leader without it. Red is not a faction color. It is a leadership color. Both sides paint themselves with it. Blue, Mirage, Jazz, RC in Transformers Prime. Bumblebee's accents in nearly every continuity. Blue is the second color you find on almost every Autobot frame that is not the leader. Blue signals discipline and recon, the soldier color, the sniper color, the scout color. Now here is a production detail most fans do not know. RC was canonically pink in G1. When Transformers Prime redesigned her, the writers turned her blue. The reason was not lore. The team did not want to put a teenage human boy named Jack Darby on a pink motorcycle. Her blue is a sitcom problem solved with a paint job. But the most loaded blue in the franchise is on a Decepticon. Thundercracker shipped in 1984 with a sky blue jet body and a Decepticon allegiance, the only major character whose body color directly contradicts his faction's color identity. And in writer John Barber's IDW run on Optimus Prime and Robots in Disguise, that contradiction became his entire arc. Thundercracker became the Decepticon who walked away from the war. He moved to Earth. He started watching human television. He began writing screenplays. He adopted a puggle named Buster, named in a real-world detail after Barber's own dog Charlie. Thundercracker is the Decepticon who watches human television in his apartment, the Seeker who privately writes screenplays, the Blue Jet who stopped showing up to Megatron's meetings. Blue is not a virtue. It is a job description. On Thundercracker, it is a confession. Purple. Every Decepticon you remember has purple somewhere. The faction symbol. Megatron's accents, Skywarp's wings, Shockwave's entire body. 40 years of pop culture villainy have been color-coded purple. Purple is the Decepticon faction color, but it almost was not. Here's the production detail that reframes everything. In 1984, the original Decepticon Seeker trio shipped with 3 different color schemes: Starscream's red and white, Thundercracker's blue, and Skywarp's black and purple. 2 of those schemes already existed before Transformers did. Starscream's deco was imported directly from a Diaclone toy called Jet Robo F-15 Eagle Ultra High Speed Fighter type. Thundercrackers came from the Acrobat type. Hasbro inherited both Japanese decos and never repainted them. Skywarp's black and purple were not inherited. They were created from scratch. Hasbro needed a third Seeker variant, Diaclone did not have one, and the company invented a new color scheme to fill out the assortment. Skywarp was the only Decepticon toy in the entire 1984 launch with purple in his palette. Every Decepticon character that came after, every faction symbol, every animation cell, every 50-foot-tall theatrical villain, inherited a brand color that started life as one extra paint job for one extra jet. And there is a connection the comics have never made explicit but cannot stop making visually. In IDW's Megatron Origin and Last Stand of the Wreckers, Energon flows as a purple-pink liquid that splatters when a Cybertronian is wounded. The Decepticon brand color happens to match the color of spilled Cybertronian blood. The comics never say it, but once you see it, you cannot unsee it. Skywarp himself, the bot whose paint job started the whole thing, is the franchise's most petty character. He teleports because he is too lazy to fly. The Decepticons' most iconic faction color belongs to its laziest member. The Decepticons did not pick purple. Hasbro did. The fans gave it the rest. Yellow. Bumblebee, the most recognized Transformer on planet Earth in any continuity by any audience metric, and his color has never changed. Yellow signals Scout. Small, fast, expendable, indispensable. The bot the franchise sends in first and brings home last. But here is the production detail almost no fan knows. Bumblebee's mold was not designed to be Bumblebee. It came from a Takara line called Microman Microchange, released in Japan in 1983, specifically MC04 Mini Car Robo 03 VW Beetle. And it was not engineered as a realistic Volkswagen. It was designed in the style of Takara's Koro Q Penny Racer toys, the super deformed mini cars Japanese kids collected. Bumblebee was a chibi car before he was a Transformer. Hasbro slotted him into the cheapest Transformers price tier and released him in both yellow and red variants to add visual variety to early shelves. The character with the most lasting brand color in franchise history started life as a budget shelf chibi. In the original G1 cartoon, Bumblebee was a smaller, less prominent character, the human kid's friend, not the team's scout. The yellowest scout convention was cemented by the Bayverse films, then by the 2018 Bumblebee solo film, then back applied to the entire franchise. Bumblebee's yellow is the only Cybertronian color that survived unchanged through every continuity reboot. The color outlasted every version of the character it was painted on. A chibi car that the franchise turned into its mascot. Green. Bulkhead, Hound, every wrecker. Green is the color of the Autobot who shows up when the situation has already gone bad. Green signals heavy-duty military, the soldier's color, not the leader's color. In G1, Hound transformed into a Mitsubishi J59 Jeep painted in US Army colors with white star insignias on the hood. In Transformers Animated, Bulkhead was a green construction vehicle. In Transformers Prime, Bulkhead was redesigned as a green SUV. In Age of Extinction, Hound came back as an Oshkosh Defense medium tactical vehicle voiced by John Goodman. Same character template across 40 years. The green character is always the heavy. And here is what the Bayverse films actually got wrong for a long time. When Hound debuted in Age of Extinction in 2014, he was the first Bayverse Autobot to use a ground-based military vehicle alt mode. Jetfire in Revenge of the Fallen had the SR-71 Blackbird in 2009, but Jetfire was a defected Decepticon, not an Autobot from the start. Hound was the course correction. 4 films of Autobot sports cars before the franchise let one of the good guys drive a tank. In Transformers Prime and across IDW, the Wreckers' classic deco includes camo green. They are the Autobots' deepest stakes combat unit. The green tells you what their job is. Disposability. Bulkhead is acrophobic. The Wrecker who is afraid of heights. Hound smokes a cigar in Age of Extinction. The green Autobot is always the one with a personality the writers cannot take back. Green is the color of the Autobot the writers send in to take a hit. Silver. Megatron's silver chassis, the 1984 Hasbro toy, the single most photographed villain silhouette in the franchise. Silver signals elite finish. The unstained metal, the chrome that has not been corrupted yet. One small publishing note worth flagging. G1 Megatron's mold came from Takara's Microman line, specifically MC13, Gun Robo P38 UNCLE, released in 1983, which itself riffed on the Walther P38 pistol made famous by the man from UNCLE. The Hasbro 1984 Megatron release used vacuum metallized chrome plating over die-cast metal. That is where the iconic silver came from. But here's what almost no Western fan knows. The Japanese Takara 1985 release of Megatron used a completely different deco. Flat matte gray plastic, no chrome. Blue interior. Western kids grew up thinking Megatron was silver. Japanese kids grew up thinking he was gray. The most iconic villain finish in pop culture is a Hasbro-only color choice. Megatron picked the elite finish on purpose. The aristocrat's color. The class revolutionary wearing the establishment's chrome. Same gesture as taking purple as a faction color. The working class wearing the high caste's clothes. Real-world side note. The G1 Megatron toy was eventually banned at Australian retail and restricted in the US because it looked too much like an actual gun. The most famous villain chassis in pop culture failed regulatory approval. Megatron's silver came with a warranty problem. Silver is the color of a Cybertronian who has not been corrupted yet. Megatron lied with it. Black, Skywarp, Nemesis Prime, Sideways, Lockdown. The color of corruption in nearly every Transformers continuity. Black signals possession, corruption, or shadow ops. Something has overwritten the bot's original self. When Optimus is mind-controlled by Quintessa in The Last Knight, his color shifts to black. Not red, not blue, black. The franchise's visual code for this Prime has been hollowed out and someone else is driving. One continuity note worth flagging. In Japan in 2000, Takara's Car Robots line introduced D12 Black Convoy, a deliberately corrupted black and teal redeco of Optimus Prime. Most fans assume he is a redeco of the original 1984 Optimus mold. He is not. He is a redeco of the 1995 Generation 2 Laser Optimus Prime, the second Optimus mold in franchise history. Hasbro then repackaged him in 2002 as Scourge, a Decepticon, with the original sword dulled and a license plate reading D012 as a nod to the Takara number. Black Convoy was Takara making evil Optimus a faction leader. Hasbro made him a villain. Same mold, two different ideas of what corrupted leadership looks like. But there is one Autobot the rule cannot account for. Trailbreaker, G1 Autobot, predominantly black plastic with red highlights. A heroic defensive strategist with a force field power. The single major black-bodied Autobot in the original 1984 lineup. The exception that proves every other rule on this list. Trailbreaker is the Autobot who generates force fields and worries about his fuel efficiency. The black-bodied hero who joined the wrong side of his own color rule. The franchise has spent 40 years writing him as the underdog the team forgets. Black is what a body looks like when nobody is home, except when an Autobot ignores the rule. Gray. The Transformers, the movie, 1986. The Battle of Autobot City, Optimus Prime dies. His body turns gray. Every fan over 30 has that frame burned into their memory. Gray on a Cybertronian body is not a color. It is a body shutting down. And Optimus was not the only one. Within the same film, Brawn turns gray. Prowl turns gray. Ironhide turns gray. Ratchet turns gray. The 1986 movie killed off most of the original Autobot cast in 20 minutes. Every single one of them faded the same way. Optimus's death is the famous one because it had the emotional weight. The visual rule was already established before he hit the floor. This phenomenon went unnamed for 32 years. The Transformers Lost Light issue 13 in 2018 finally gave it a canonical name: aggressive depigmentation, the loss of color in a Cybertronian's living metal after traumatic damage or spark loss. The franchise had been doing it since 1986. It took until 2018 to admit it had a rule. The lineage runs everywhere. Megatron in Transformers Animated, killed by lockdown in 2009. Topspin in Last Stand of the Wreckers 4, sacrificing his spark to activate Equitus in 2010. The gray rule held until 2024. In Transformers 1, the rule reverses. When Orion Pax, D16, Alita 1, and B-127 climb into the cave where the original 13 Primes died, they find the corpses still in their original colors. The Primes have been dead for 50 cycles. Their bodies are still red, still gold, still purple. True Primes do not turn gray when they die. The film establishes this without dialogue. The bodies just are still what they were. Then Megatron tears Sentinel Prime in half in front of all of Icon. Sentinel turns gray. The most famous fraud in the franchise was caught by his own death scene. He was never a real Prime. The Matrix had rejected him. He stole Megatronus Prime's transformation cog to fake his power. And when he died, his body did exactly what every other dying Cybertronian's body had ever done. He turned gray. Because gray is what happens when you were never what you said you were. Gray is not a color. It is the absence of every other color the bot ever wore. Cybertronian colors are not decoration. They are 40 years of visual language about who leads, who fights, who lies, and who is gone. Which color did the franchise lie to you about? Tell us below.